Kangaroos, wombats, platypuses. What do all of these animals have in common? They're basic. I'm kidding. But there's so much more to Australasia's fauna than the fan favourites. How many of you are aware of our lesser known Antipodean obscura? I was on one of my iconic Wikipedia deep dives and fell down a rabbit hole. Turns out there's a diverse array of demi-cryptids in Australia and New Guinea. Enough to impress the arch autist in your D&D circle, alienate the remaining normies who tolerate your presence, or forge a mystical listicle video. Let's go with the latter. Hey, you just said obscure. Everyone knows what an echidna is. Don't be so hasty. This is not our first entry, but I'll give you a clue. The full name of this monotreme is the short-beaked echidna. Oh, so does that mean there's a long-beaked? Oh dear God. What the hell is that? Now, they look a little cursed. But hey, wouldn't you if you were ambushed by paparazzi at 3 AM in a New Guinean rainforest? It also doesn't help that half the images of this elusive creature are botched taxidermy jobs. They really stuffed this one up. There are 3 living species of long-beaked echidnas, all of them found in Papua New Guinea. However, the western long-beaked echidna did live on the Australian continent until relatively recently. There are even indigenous paintings of our long-nosed friends in the Kimberley. These robust creatures measure around 60 centimeters in length, twice the average size of their short-beaked cousins, while garden variety echidnas gorge themselves on ants by the charcuterie horde. Longbeaks are more suited to sucking down worms. Love me some spag hole. These echidnas are also excellent diggers, and their technique makes it appear as if they're sinking straight down into the earth. They sometimes vanish below ground for more than 24 hours. To what end, the gods only know. But unlike the cave diver and father of 3 who goes spelunking in Hades' hemorrhoids, these monotremes always resurface. Sir David's long-beaked echidna was discovered in 1961 with a single sighting. Then it vanished for 60 years, until it was spotted again by chance on a trail cam in 2023. They're real-life cryptids and you can't tell me otherwise. This mystique isn't helped by the fact that they had never properly been studied. That was until Muse Opiang, researcher and Papuan local, took up the task himself. He personally tracked and tagged not 1, but 22 of these elusive monotremes. Long-beaked echidnas are quite endangered, due in part to logging and mining, but also hunting. They are considered a delicacy in Papuan indigenous culture, and as such, their numbers have dwindled. But Opiang has had some success by setting up no hunting zones by working with local communities to protect the echidnas. And with their efforts, there is still some hope that these magnificent creatures can live on. While we're on the topic of New Guinea, there's a whole host of other obscure variants of Australian classics. Many of you will be familiar with tree kangaroos, but did you know there's 14 species? Some of my personal faves, based purely on rad aesthetics, are the ursine and dingizo. Another bizarre creature that straddles the FNQ-PNG divide, as well as the rainforest branch, are the cuscusses. These weird fellas are essentially possums gone tropical, belonging to the same family as brushtails. You may be aware of the Sulawesi bear cuscus of brain rot fame, but there's some other beautiful specimens out there, like the spotted and mountain cuscus. There is, however, a New Guinean relative of a very recognisable Australian animal, and no one knows it exists. Dorcopsis. This thing looks like a skinwalker impersonating an AI rendering of a Temu ripoff of a photocopy of a wallaby, as recalled by an inmate of Bedlam. Also, he kinda cute, like a bipedal greyhound. Dorcopsis, like their close relatives kangaroos and wallabies, are a variety of macropod, but rather than bounding across endless grasslands, they hop in quickfire bursts through PNG's dense rainforests. There's some suggestion that they're an evolutionary midway point between kangaroos and tree kangaroos, meaning it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And that journey takes a detour through the uncanny valley. There are 4 species of these beguilingly bizarre bouncing boys, all of them largely nocturnal and quite rare. The rarest, the critically endangered black Dorcopsis, is found on only one small island off the coast of Papua New Guinea, with mountains taller than Australia's highest peak. Good enough. They're most threatened by slash and burn agriculture, levelling their isolated habitat, all in the name of more palm oil, and yet another reason to be mindful when doing your weekly shop. So even though they look like a medieval painter's interpretation of a Google Lens translation of an excerpt of quokka DNA, the Dorcopsis is truly unique. And let's face it, this weird obscure little dude needs our help. Our next pseudo-cryptid lives in quite a contrasting biosphere to New Guinea's lush jungles, the Australian outback. It's only sighted on average 3 times per decade, largely because it spends most of its life underground. Meet the marsupial mole. They may resemble the placental moles of the Northern Hemisphere, but they're more closely related to tree kangaroos than wind in the willows. A classic case of convergent evolution. Any mole's a goal. Marsupial moles don't forge tunnels. That would be boring. Instead, they slink through the desert sand, leaving no trace that they were ever there. Call it Pilbara parkour. It's part of the reason they're so goddamn hard to find. Dune divers also have a very low metabolism normally, but it overclocks 60 times when they're doing silt stroke. Because they shift through such large quantities of sand, the moles have evolved a reinforced head, incredibly small ear holes for keeping out debris. And most fascinating of all, no eyes. Well, they do have residual eyes, but they're concealed under a layer of skin with no pupil, making them functionally blind. And who needs eyes when all you see is this? It's enough to make you murder a classroom of younglings. The subterranean swimmers, true to their name, are marsupials, and possess a backwards-facing pouch much like a wombat's where the joeys do the growy. Most Australians will never get the chance to see a marsupial mole. Not that it could ever see you back, but it's just good to know they're thriving out there. I have a vivid childhood memory of this next creature. I was walking through the dunes at Wilson's prom. Sun, surf, bull ants. And there were plenty of jumping jacks around, but there was also this, a blue ant. For a long time I was convinced it was the shiny Pokemon of bull ants, and for an even longer time I'd wondered if I'd just hallucinated the whole thing. Turns out it's real, but it's not an ant, it's a wasp. They're most commonly known as bluebottles, one of the many species of iridescent flower wasps. Both sexes consume pollen. The males can fly, and they're actually very good pollinators, but the females have been relegated to a terrestrial existence, hence the confusion with ants. That colour comes from a structural source rather than pigmentation. This gives it a shiny quality, and they become more blue as light scatters on the surface. As with so many wasp species, bluebottles are parasitoids. To put it in human terms, imagine a pregnant woman paralysing you with a polio shiv, giving birth on top of you, and then leaving her ravenous newborns to slowly eat you alive while your nerve endings are still fully intact. Insects live in the 40k universe, and I wake up grateful every day that I don't. Most parasitoid wasps target beetles and their larvae, but the bluebottles actually prey on something else. The next entry on this list. This is an insect you've probably never seen, but you've definitely heard it. A mole cricket. Let's be honest, it looks like a yabby rooted in earwig, but let's not judge a book by its cover. Mole crickets are everywhere. They're found across much of Australia and the world, yet they're more elusive than the opening date of the Melbourne Metro Tunnel. Speaking of, mole crickets are diggers by trade. Their front legs are built like tiny shovels and use these to construct elaborate burrow systems in which to reside. These burrows have a number of alternative uses: escaping predators, staying moist as they're prone to drying out, and sound engineering. Mole crickets are the logic users of the insect world, or Audacity if you're a cheap bastard like me. The males craft specially shaped resonating chambers in their tunnels. With the right acoustic spectrum, their calls can be amplified 50 times louder than they are in open air. The male cricket is judged by females not only on the amplitude and quality of his call, but how well he's constructed his subterranean subwoofer. In many ways, our species are alike. There are plenty of other intriguing invertebrates in Australia worth a mention. This mountain katydid might look drab, but when it flashes its posterior, it goes from grayscale to RGB. Behave, darling. That sucks. Then there's the Cooloola monster, a bizarre insect found only in Queensland's sandhills. It's so strange it had to be given its very own family, though its closest cousin is the giant weta of New Zealand. Very Cooloola. And if you prefer your invertebrates a bit more squishy, there's the legendary giant Gippsland earthworm, stretching up to a meter long, and they're so large they make an audible noise that can be heard above ground. Or how about the fluorescent pink slugs of Mount Caputar, an extinct volcano? 90% of these vibrant gastropods were wiped out after the 2020 bushfires charcoal grilled their ecosystem. Despite the devastation, they are recovering, albeit at a snail's pace. Australia is the land of snakes. We've got half the world's python species, and the red centre has the most diverse reptile fauna of any bioregion on Earth. It's only natural that some might slither under the radar. One that deserves a spotlight is the Bandy, and this decision has nothing to do with the persuasiveness of its writhing, hypnotic coils, though they are certainly compelling. These macaroni mimes are actually a group of 5 zebra-spangled species that are found across the continent. Bandies are specialized hunters and hyperfixate on one kind of prey, blind snakes. These earthworm-looking reptiles are honestly strange enough to be their own entry on this list, but instead they're an entree on his. It's important to mention that bandies are not very poisonous, and definitely not a threat to humans. Black and white, she'll be right. When they themselves are threatened, they engage in a performance halfway between interactive theatre art and psychological warfare. They're grayscale ray guns, twisting and looping their body into such mesmerizing and contorted forms that their pursuers give up in a mix of confusion, shock, awe, and mild sexual frustration. Just me then. The stripy seizure snag's ability to make itself look bigger, while simultaneously becoming a sentient Escher painting, is enough to make their bizarre way of life a viable playstyle. Another defensive dynamo, and a victim of Midas's poor idea of personal space, the golden-tailed gecko is a herpetological icon. Just look at those markings. This gecko is one of the best-known species of a highly endangered habitat type, the Brigalow Belt of central Queensland. More than 90% of it has been cleared, mostly for cattle grazing. Yet amazingly, the golden-tailed gecko has been able to persist in fragments barely more than a hectare. These guys would thrive at a tiny home convention. What's more amazing is this species possesses a rare superpower. They squirt. I know what you're thinking, sicko. And that's why I like you. It's described as a sticky, potentially irritating, foul-smelling goo that erupts from specialized glands along its decked-out dorsal dangler. Its tail, I mean. Predatory birds in particular hate getting splooged with gecko goop. It gunks up their feathers. But if that doesn't work, and the predator leans in for more, this gecko's got a backup plan. That shimmering golden tail isn't just for show, it's a decoy. They can drop it on command, leaving the predator chasing a glittery distraction while the rest of the gecko makes a true Irish exit, complete with a pot of gold. There's a plethora of cockatoo species in Australia, but none quite like this one. And I don't think there's an animal more fitting of the title, metal. And the comparisons don't stop there. Guitarred and feathered straddle that divide between Australia and New Guinea, the Sahul thigh gap. Paleo nerds will love that reference. Avenged featherfold is a hollow nester, similar to their other parrot brethren, preferring to nest in eucalyptus trees. Males do a reno job in these hollows to make them more suitable for incubation and to impress a female. Fly-in maiden will judge the nest, but she's more rigorous than most building inspectors, and oftentimes the male doesn't make the cut. But he has something up his feather-clad sleeve. He's a muso. Our palm cocky whips out a stick and starts tapping, to a beat. This drum solo resonates with the female, signaling the structural integrity of the hollow and the structural integrity of his brain. Palmies are the sole bird species that uses an object to create rhythm, and the only animal outside primates. Looks like we're not the only Tool fans. Forget the cracker, Polly wants a limp biscuit. It wouldn't be a mystical listicle without an amphibian cameo. Plenty of odd applicants for the role. Crucifix frog, sandhill frog, even the armoured frog. But the weirdest contender? The turtle frog. Mutant? Check. Ninja? Teenage? We'll get to that. They're found in the sands of the nation's southwest, the cosmic irony of the alien-looking frog being a Perthling. While most burrowing frogs excavate backwards with their hind legs, Turtle frogs thrust forwards with forearms more juiced than a Boost franchise. Their diet? Termites, squirming protein snacks straight from the soil canteen. Rarely glimpsed topside, the sentient scrotums only emerge when rain falls. And an interesting little tidbit about Tiddalik Jr. They have no tadpole phase. Rather than lay in water, lady turtle frogs sequester their comparatively large eggs underground. These then hatch into fully formed froglets, ready to go. So in summary, it's a frog that looks like a turtle, lives like a mole, dines like a numbat, and reproduces reptile style. Natural selection doesn't care about your car crash of a resume. Just show us results, and you keep the job. For our final critter, we're diving headfirst into Tasmanian waters. There exists down here a group of fish so strange, Davy Jones inks his drawers at the mention of its name. Handfish. Why handfish? It's hard to grasp, but those modified pectoral fins might be a clue. While most fish opt to take advantage of the low-gravity physics of water and swim, handfish dawdle along the seafloor. Very cute. But imagine if everyone could fly, and you're stuck doing the sidewalk shuffle like a gronk. No offense. Like every questionable lifestyle choice, there's an evolutionary explanation. Handfish are bottom feeders. Not an insult, just a fact. And fist flounder prey on the mollusks and slow-moving invertebrates of the sea floor. Walking is less energy intensive and it's more suited to their hunting style of meditating until something comes along. And then, boom. It's no surprise then that slap snapper are anglers. They've even got that signature dongle protruding from their heads. But this hood ornament is purely for show. Red handfish, one of the 14 handfish species, are rare enough to make unicorns look overstocked. There are only 100 individuals left in their native habitat, the waters around Port Arthur. Why are they so critically endangered? Red handfish rely on seaweed to lay their eggs, but this seaweed is increasingly being gobbled up by insatiable sea urchins. And the sea urchin numbers have been bolstered in Tassie due to overfishing of their natural predators. Lobsters. Oh god, that's half of Tassie's economy. Wrist wrasse might meander on the seabed, but we shouldn't sleep on them. They're hands down one of the most interesting fish in the world, and certainly one of the rarest. There are plenty more strange and wonderful creatures I could talk about. Velvet worms, Tasmanian cave spiders, and rifle birds. Shh. Sweet dude. But there's only so much I can cover in one video. What began as a bit of a curiosity for me turned into something bigger. The realization that many of these fascinating animals are also fighting for survival. Some on the very edge of extinction. Awareness is important. If I can nudge these creatures a little higher up on the algorithm, I consider that a win. But there is more we can do. FAME, or the Foundation for Australia's Most Endangered Species, is an organisation that focuses on funding conservation projects to save some of our most threatened native species, especially the lesser known ones. One of these happens to be the red handfish. The project aims to breed red handfish, relocate them to a safer habitat, and in a world first, teach them how to survive in their new home. And they're less than $10,000 away from achieving their goal. I think we can give it one last push. So if you can, please donate. If even a fraction of my audience does, they can get this project underway. This isn't a sponsorship. FAME didn't ask me to say this. I just believe in their work, which is why I've been supporting them for years. There they go. Some of God's own prototypes. High-powered mutants of some kind, never even considered for mass production. Too weird to live, too rare to die.